Hey there, Starseeds! Welcome to Beyond the Cosmic Table. We're a group of friends from different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. We gather around our table and initiate honest and open conversations on how energy and frequencies influence what we create around us. By expanding awareness, we're able to journey with practical guidance leading to our highest awareness and conscious living. So, take a seat and join us at our table. Triggers. They happen in all of our relationships, romantic, family, friendships, work, even with perfect strangers. They're everywhere. In this episode, Jami, Ebby, Dianne, Julie, Rose, and I chat about some of the triggers that are coming up for us, even ones that we thought we've healed and moved on from. What are we learning from them, and how are they helping us grow and strengthen our relationships and interactions with others? Listen in as Jami starts off the conversation.
This is Jami, and I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about some current things that are going on energetically for a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of people in my sessions really struggling with making some energetic shifts in their lives, letting go of old patterns, and really getting to the root of the things that are triggering them, whether it's in their family, at work, or in their romantic relationships. They have a lot of kind of unhealed things that are coming up for them lately. And I know that a lot of people that I talk to are noticing that there's a lot of things that they feel like they've worked through, like limiting beliefs and things like that, that they've worked through when they're doing their own, what we call spiritual alchemy. They're starting to become aware of their triggers and things like that, but they're really starting to see it from a higher perspective of what's going on in my inner self, what beliefs am I holding about myself that are then being triggered by someone else. And it's just showing me what I need to heal or transmute. And they're saying, I felt like I've already worked through all that, and now it seems like it's coming back with a vengeance. And I feel like I've made all this progress towards inner peace and balance and awareness. And all of a sudden now I feel like I'm kind of spiraling backwards. So I was wondering if any of you are feeling that way about things. What do you think, Kim?
Yes, I have been experiencing a lot of that, mostly in my relationship, and it's been very interesting. A lot of stuff is coming up for me, and I'm also recognizing things that are coming up for my partner too, and we're working through it together. But yeah, I've been having a really difficult time figuring out why I'm still triggered by certain things that I felt like I've moved past, and why it's coming up, and trying to look at it from a higher perspective, not getting caught up in the 3D view of it, which is so easy to do, obviously. So when I feel myself like getting caught up in it and spiraling out, and my emotions are getting out of control and I can feel it, I'm finding that when I step away and shake it off and try to look at it from a higher perspective, that I end up seeing what it is it's bringing up for me. And it's obviously something that I either need to see, to release, something I need to learn. So it's been really interesting. And for a while there, I was getting down on myself because I did feel like, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of thing. But I'm recognizing now that this is all for my growth. And it's all about, I guess, the layers too, that we hear about all the time. Like, just because, we've cleared it doesn't mean there's not another layer of the same thing. And yeah, that's what I've been dealing with. And so in terms of how I've been communicating within my relationship with triggers, it's been basically just trying to be as open and vulnerable and honest as I possibly can about how I'm feeling about it, without placing what I'm feeling as blaming my partner. Because initially when something triggers me, I want to look at him and blame him, like, you're making me feel this way. But that's not what's happening. He's triggering a feeling that has been within me, that's coming up for me to see so I can heal it. And the more it's happening, the more I'm able to see it. Every time it happens, the quicker I'm seeing it. And And the more calm I am and the more, I'm able to approach him in a very calm manner and say, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is how the situation is coming up for me. Let's talk through it. And I'm not going to lie. It's been difficult. There's been a lot of resistance from both of us to be able to come together and feel safe to really share in a very genuine and vulnerable way what we're each experiencing and why, and figure out where is this coming from. And usually it's from, childhood wounds, or just past experiences that have hurt us, and we're just trying to protect ourselves. And we've been very successful in coming out the other side and figuring out, what this means for us. And it's actually been really exciting. And every time we come together and we get through the conversation, we're like, holy shit. I mean, it was a total emotional roller coaster, and it very much sucked from the beginning. But once we got through it and we figured out what there was to learn from it, we had a better understanding of one another. It opened up our communication even better. It made our relationship stronger. And now we're kind of like, not that we want to continue, dealing with these things coming up, but, at the same time, we're like, but even though it's kind of like working out, that's how we related it to working out. Like, you don't want to work out. And while you're working out, it kind of sucks. You're sweating, you're breathing heavy, it's hard. You're like, this sucks. But then when you're done, you feel really good because you feel like you did something to honor your health. And if you keep doing it, like every time you go into your workout, it's like, okay, I don't want to do this, but when I'm done, I feel better. And then as time goes on, you notice you're getting stronger, you're feeling better. Maybe you're losing weight if that's your goal. You're looking in the mirror and you're liking what you see, which is making you feel better. Like it's all like, it's like that push and that hard work, but at the end, out feeling so much better. And I feel like that's what these triggers are bringing up for me. It's really sucking in the moment, but every time I feel better, stronger, and my relationship with my partner is that much better.
Yeah. And that's what an evolved conscious relationship is. And you'll get to the point where those moments may not even suck anymore, to be honest with you, because one thing that I would, if anybody ever came to me for relationship advice for whatever reason, I would say anytime you get upset about anything, take a moment and say, you know what, I'm feeling upset. I got to go find out what that's about and take a beat, and really look at it, because kind of the way that we've been operating in our relationships in the past has been to react. We're reacting to everything. And then we're responding with our ego mind, our coping mechanisms. And that's what's causing us to react in those different ways that aren't benefiting us, because we're never getting to the root. You always have to get to the root, right? Otherwise, you could leave that relationship and you'll have the same relationship with somebody else. It's going to be the same dynamic over and over and over, because the pattern begins with you. Right. So you guys are taking the time to really look at what is it in me that's causing me to have these feelings that you just happen to be a catalyst for, your partner. And that's kind of how we grow and evolve. So relationships are our biggest teachers, because they're the ones reflecting to us our true inner beliefs about ourselves. And so that's where we always have to start. And that's where we always have to go back to, but as you said, it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And you'll notice I'm reacting in an old way that I used to react. And one thing that was interesting that you said is, and I just was having a conversation with one of my clients about this, was that they'll say, I'm doing really well. I am focusing on my desires and not the lack of them. I'm working with the law of attraction deliberately, and things seem to be going well. And then something will happen. And then I start to doubt myself, and then I go into this downward spiral, and it just amplifies. And I think, wow, I really thought I was beyond this. I thought I healed this. I thought, things were better. And it's interesting to me, because when we start to experience contrast, or we start to experience another layer of these things, these wounds that we have, or these inner beliefs that aren't serving us, we really start to beat up on ourselves, which just amplifies the downward spiral, right? But when we have good things in our life happen, we don't tend to amplify them.
So
we beat up on ourselves, but we don't cheer ourselves when we're manifesting great things in our lives, and we're really expanding and growing and raising our consciousness. But so I wish that was different. So that's something that I think a lot of people should consider for themselves, why am I so quick to beat up on myself and take myself down versus raise myself up in these situations?
Absolutely. I totally resonate with that, because I have found as of late, like, we're all going through our own things right now, right? And we're all reacting differently to shifting into our light bodies. And for me, I have probably spent the last few years, I talk to myself constantly. Like, I feel like I'm on a daily basis having like daily conversations with myself, right? And I've always been the question asker, right? In that narrative voice. But as of late, I have found myself to be more of the cheerleader voice, more of the higher perspective voice, more of, with everything, aligning to my manifestations right now, I have found myself more in that higher perspective voice on a daily basis, even almost right before that trigger comes, or right before, I'm trying, something happens. I already know what's coming, and I know that I need that cheerleader voice to take over. And as of probably about the last month or so, that's what's been happening for me, is that cheerleader voice is the first one that greets me in the morning, gets me through my day. And it's been more of just listening to that cheerleader voice rather
And
than
that cheerleader voice may very well be your inner being or your higher self.
Yeah.
Because that is what you will hear from your higher self or your inner beings or your spirit guides.
Yeah.
So I think like when we get to a certain level where we're really be able to tune in to our spirit guides or our higher self, we will seem like we're talking to ourselves in our mind. Like, I will actually have a reaction to something and immediately hear my higher self or my spirit guide say, here's what's really going on. Here's what, and then, or they'll say, is that thought going to benefit you? Is that thought in alignment for you? Like, right away, I'll hear that, and then it'll recalibrate me immediately. But that's probably what's happening with you, is you're really you're tuned in. So you're having that dialogue, and your higher self is the one going, oh, but see it this way.
Yeah. But mine, and there's been a lot that's been going on, in my life personally. So there's been a lot of hearing, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah. And there's been a lot of affirmation of where I am now, because I'm currently in a new cycle, right? My one cycle. And it's been a lot of, look at how far you've come. Know how much farther we're going to go, So it's been a lot of affirmations too, and cheerleading. So
that's great.
I love that the word you say, Jami, contrast, and I'm going to use it. It's interesting, Kim, where you're at, and then where I am with my husband. We're about to celebrate our 34th wedding anniversary. Oh. And I think of our journey and our contrasts, or, our arguments that we've had over all the years and how they've changed. And I've seen this happen, but it just kind of reinforces it here. We're no longer, we still have maybe a minute of reaction or something, but now instead of just arguing and reacting and, what he's doing to me or what I'm doing to him, we're like, okay, there's a trigger being pushed here. What's your trigger? Those are in our conversation now. And that's really, it's crazy, but it's almost hilarious in a way, because it just shows the growth that we're doing, or we're having. And as soon as that word comes up during our contrast, it diffuses whatever's going on. We're like, oh crap, what is going on? And it has because it has nothing to do with him when I'm being triggered, even though maybe he said something and that started it, but it was my trigger that brought it, to a different level. And but yeah, so those are our our arguments. So some of the language that's been added to our arguments now is that's a button. You need to figure out what that button is.
Mhm.
It's really great that you have partnered up with someone who also is willing to do that. I know I talk to a lot of people who feel that, I'm doing it, but my partner isn't. So when we get into a negative interaction, I feel like I'm always looking at myself, but he or she is never looking at themselves in that way. And so then what do you do in that situation? My advice is you can only control you, and anytime that you're wanting someone else to do anything like that, you're trying to control what they're doing. So when you make the shifts in you, things will shift. It'll either shift within your relationship or it'll shift you out of the relationship, one of those two things. But all you can do is your inner work and see what happens, once you do. But you're very fortunate to be in a relationship where you're both willing to look at the root cause for each of you separately, and
Right.
it's so interesting to me too, because what I notice in a lot of in every relationship really is that there's always a commonality in the triggers, because you attract people into your life based on a matching vibration. So if a lot of your triggers are around insecurity, I would bet money that your partner has some triggers around insecurity as well. And they might come in different forms. They might be triggered by different circumstances, but that would be the underlying root cause. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, and I think that's how we've been able to collaborate, if you want to say, in making these changes in our conversations about these triggers, because we are coming from the same place, the same insecurities, the same feelings, and kind of the same childhood. So absolutely.
Julie, are you noticing that your delivery is different though? Because you're part of this tribe, and so we more often more self-aware because we're constantly pushing that envelope and encouraging each other to be so. But are you noticing how you deliver some of these things to your husband, and how the delivery may not be so defensive, or it's more assertive? Now it's more of a even, non what's the word?
Non-confrontational.
Exactly. So that makes a big deal. When I have clients that are saying, I try and talk to him, he won't talk. Where's his Mercury? Maybe his Mercury is in a place where he's not going to talk. Well, maybe it is, but how are you talking to each other? Because that makes a big difference on who wants to talk to somebody who's going to make them feel small or insignificant, or that they're always wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and I've noticed that in my relationship, in the beginning, we had major challenges where I was reacting and I was so triggered and looking at it in such a different way. And now I'm initially triggered, but I keep it to myself, and I'm able to analyze what's going on within me and think through and before I approach him. And then I'm approaching him in a completely different way, where I honestly feel like he has no choice but to meet me in that same place, where before I was reacting, then he was reacting, and then things would blow up. So I think that now that I'm in my awareness of what's going on, and I'm able to approach him in a very calm way, and I know that there's something for us to learn and grow from, and I started out that way, that's how our conversations have been able to evolve and come to a resolution.
We can be aware of some of these triggers, and avoidance does not mean you're taking care of the triggers. Yeah, I had a client who had a real difficult relationship with her mother. She felt her mother was making her feel unworthy. So you know how we redirect that, right? Well, during COVID, she spent less time with her mother. Then she had an issue with somebody at work, but because of COVID, she no longer intercedes with that person. So she always felt, well, I'm getting better at this because I'm not entrenched in these things, right? Well, no, it's still there. You just didn't deal with it. So then she had a friend who started doing it. So she spaced herself from her friend. And of course, what happened was she ends up with a neighbor right next door to her. A neighbor who's so close that they would meet for coffee and have this casual friendship. And this neighbor has the same traits as everybody else that she was trying to avoid. So avoidance does not mean that you're taking care of these things or being aware that you're working through these things. And there's nobody out there, there's no superpower out there who's telling you you have to do this. Nobody's saying deal with all your triggers before you die. It's just life is so much better when you have that self-awareness and you're open to the growth and the expansion. You have so much more that's fulfilling and loving and happy and joyful. And that is a true reason to try to work through these things.
Yeah. And to your point, you hear people refer to other people as toxic people. And so they will say things like, I choose to avoid toxic people, or I just don't go around them anymore, this or that. But to what you were saying, you're always going to be attracting what you consider to be toxic people in your life if you're never looking at your aspect of the interaction with them. What's really at the root cause of why are you attracting these people into your life in the first place?
Well, and a lot of people think, well, I'm not toxic, so how can I be attracting these toxic people? Well, where's your meter as far as self-worth and unworthiness? Because if your meter is pretty low, well, of course you're going to attract somebody who's going to make you feel lower.
Yeah. And this is the transition from the illusion of power to authentic power. Because when you are in a relationship, let's say that you've attracted a relationship where your partner is not honest with you, they're disrespecting you, maybe they've cheated on you, that kind of thing. The typical way of seeing that is they need to change. If that person needs to change their behavior versus why would I attract this relationship? And the root cause of it is because you have some kind of underlying belief of unworthiness or lack of self-respect. And so you've attracted someone who will be a mirror for you and show you that. And that's what this partner is doing. And when you get to that conclusion where you say, I need to heal my unworthiness and my lack of self-respect, then you won't even attract people like that anymore. So instead of trying to have the illusion of power by controlling them and their actions, so someone who gets cheated on might say, from now on, I'm going to look through your phone. From now on, I'm going to monitor where you are all the time, right? That's an illusion of control. But to get to the point where you won't even attract a relationship where you would feel the need to even do that, that's the real power that you have. Okay, that's an evolved empowerment that you have.
Yeah. I really resonated with what Rose said about being your own cheerleader, just rewarding yourself for noticing all of these things at a higher level. And it is really fun for me right now. I went back to work after COVID. Of course, we were home for 16, 17 months. And now there's, the couple coworkers that I share an office with, and of course, a few other people in the office. And it's fun now because everything's really magnified. So like the little issues that I had before with a few people, it's like really in my face. So I'm like, it's so interesting to watch as I sit there all day, like going, okay, what is these last couple of pieces within me that's kind of eating away at me? And kind of diving into it that way and rewarding myself, like Rose had said, to say, I'm looking at it from a higher level. I'm not getting upset, but I know there's still like a trigger. Still a trigger there that I need to look into. But then I come home and I like unplug and I go for a walk and I try to like dive into it. I know there's still a few things there, but I'm trying not to, beat myself up about those couple little things. And it's interesting that like some of the relationships and friendships, of course, we've all talked about, we've had friendships kind of drift away. But it's interesting because with a few of the groups, of course, with COVID, we were separated. And I was kind of like wondering like the whole time, was this like, is this a group I want to, still, do stuff socially with? But since COVID, I mean, and of course, we've all transformed in the past, year and a half so much. And I've come back together with them. And I feel like I've learned enough about myself because none of them create issues with me anymore. So that's exciting to like reconnect with some of those people that I did enjoy, but they pulled triggers on me, but I've hopefully healed those triggers. So now I'm very comfortable around the group. So that's been fun.
That is fun.
The self-talk thing too. Yeah. But just Jamie was saying about that, how you hear the things. That's another thing that's been happening a lot to me because I'll say something in my head. I'm like, is it this way? And then I hear an instant, you know, yes, it is, or no, think about it a different way. So that's been fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, I do have a lot of that inner dialogue that goes on, and a lot of times it upgrades what I say or what I'm thinking.
Or tells you to look at it from a different perspective.
Mhm.
You know, think about it from that person's side of you, or like Rose was saying, like the cheerleader side, you know, and you're just like, you know, I should, because we all talk about how we should ourselves.
Right.
And then you hear like, no, you had to go through this process. And that's something I've channeled a message quite a bit lately, is that they're telling me like, you know, a month ago, I was just like going, you know, you still question like, where am I on my journey or whatever, and or I should be further along or whatever. But they'd say to me, like, look at your past month and the experiences that you've had. You now understand why you had to go through those experiences on your journey and for your soul. So that's been a lot of fun to see things from the bigger picture over the course of a time, you know, like a month's time.
Yeah, I like to look at all this, or just try to do my best in retrospect, looking at everything and just thinking like, this was not for nothing. Like nothing is happening just because, like there's always something to learn. And if we could just look at it that way, and I mean, just for me, like stop pointing fingers, stop looking at the other person and blaming them, stop trying to be right. That's like my biggest lesson here is like, stop trying to prove yourself right, and let's just look at what's going on here and what there is to learn and just how to grow and move forward. And it's been so helpful. It's been like, honestly, like this week, first of all, I've been on a very like high frequency, which is helpful because when you're dealing with this kind of stuff and you're low vibing, it's not easy.
That's so good. But this has been a great conversation, ladies. So
Yeah,
is there anything
spur
else
of the
that anyone wants to
moment.
add? Yeah.
A good spur of the moment conversation about triggers.
Thanks for sharing the cheerleader talk, because I still seem to lack in my self-talk. Worked on, you know, it's working great with my husband, but myself. So that was great. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
She worded it so well.
I don't know about you guys too, but like I have been like finding meaning in like the most mundane activities as of late, you know, especially with everything going on, like the whole, like I've been manifesting a home, and we've been in our current home for almost 4 years. And from the day we moved in, like I've always like looked at the kitchen like with disgust, like, ugh, you know. And in manifesting my new home, I realized that part of my master manifestation skills is I always remember to appreciate what I already have. And so when we decided to just give the cabinets a little refresh where we're currently at, it was just very interesting. And as we're doing the refresh, I'm thinking, you know what? Somebody right now is manifesting this little kitchen of mine. Like this is their dream kitchen. This is their dream home. And as I'm manifesting mine, somebody is also manifesting what I already have. So it was just interesting in the way things are playing out right now, and the signs that are coming through and the messages coming through as we're going through this shift.
You know what, Rose, in you saying that, to tie it all together, we seem to think that we're doing our self-talk and we're with our significant partners or our co-workers and close friends and going through all these things, but we're not recognizing that so much of what we're putting out there, they're taking with them and spreading it to their own groups. And that group is spreading it to the, you know, we're giving them these seeds, and some of them are coming with even better perceptions to us, you know. So it's not just staying here. It's not just between you and your partner, Kim, or your husbands and you guys. It gets spread out. They start speaking differently to their coworkers or their people that they're around, their family members, and it truly is a ripple effect.
For sure.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Yes, thank
This
you.
was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
As always, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's been exciting to learn that acknowledging the triggers that come up and working to heal them truly allows us to live a more authentic and joyful life. Please share this podcast with anyone you feel would enjoy the topic. You never know how a conversation can come into someone's life at just the right time. That's why we share our talks around the table, hoping that we are holding up a light for others that may be navigating in the dark. If you're new here, click the subscribe button so you're notified when a new episode is released. To connect with us, find us on Instagram at Beyond the Cosmic Table. Be sure to come back in a few weeks to join us for another conversation. See you then.